gone 0 and 13 from the past 4 pods.
Jeez, 0 and 13?
Yeah.
There's gotta be an issue there.
What do you mean issue?
I don't know, you're a good player. Maybe your decks are just bad.
What? My decks are not bad.
0 and 13 kind of speaks for itself.
Oh, okay, Cameron, you know what? I bet you I can take a random commander from the next set and make a better deck than any of yours.
Bet, spin the wheel.
And welcome to the cleanup step.
I'm Cameron.
And I'm Eric.
And this is round 2 of our first recording spree from our hiatus.
Ooh.
Very excited, and we've got a fun concept that we're hoping to make a recurring thing. What is it, Eric?
Yeah, so today we thought that we could do a random commander build, a deck tech, if you will. Instead of, we thought, a lot of people do deck techs, and it's fine, they're perfect, they're great, but we were just trying to look for a little oomph, a little something different, and what's better than just not being able to choose what you grab?
True. I mean, I'm a fan of deck building challenges, everything from like deck exchanges with parameters to building on a theme, just generally like ignoring the standard deck build, the just pick a commander and build the right cards sort of deck building ideas. And this is an effort to share with you all an insight into our specific minds as deck builders in a way that's engaging, and also it'll bring up some interesting conversations about some cards every now and again that you might not expect to pair with one of your favorite commanders.
Exactly. And so a couple things that we're doing to keep this interesting is that almost everything about this deck and how it's formed is random. So that means what you heard in the beginning, the little that was our commander. I don't know if we're going to reveal that yet. So we spin 3 wheels. We get one that's the commander. We're going to spin 1 wheel. That's the budget of the deck, determining how expensive it's going to be, how much the cardboard's going to be. And then we also have a wheel to determine its like competitive ability. So there's things from, we got meta, I think the 3 are meta, casual, and jank.
Yeah. Is
what the 3 categories are. And those have different meanings coming to different cards. We'll explain that more when we're talking about cards and deck tech ideas. But yeah, so it's just getting all these random things together and putting it in one amalgamation.
It'll be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be interesting, and every time we do it, we're going to have different parameters. I don't know about Eric, but as far as like deck techs are concerned, I feel like there's a lot of content out there where everybody already knows every card that they plan on talking about, or they know exactly what commander they want to do their conversation on. And I think there's going to be some really interesting moments, hopefully, that come out of these episodes, where you get to follow along while we do everything on the spot.
On the spot. Yeah, exactly. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So for this episode, we're keeping it in kind of theme with our last episode, and we chose to spin for every single legendary creature in Ravnica Remastered.
Yeah, with 1 or 2 notable exceptions.
We took out Atomic, the land stacks. It's just kind of...
We just didn't want it.
Didn't want it. Like, why stacks as a commander? And then I don't think did we? I didn't take out Fibblethip.
All right, viewers, we're already getting Fibblethip. That's just what that means.
Spoiler: it was not Fibblethip. We already got our commander.
The karmic justice would have been funny though.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think what we can go on with is revealing what our commander is for today.
I'm wondering, do you want to reveal the commander after we get our budget and our theme?
Ooh, you know what? Yeah, sure, that sounds fun.
Because I still don't know what it is.
Oh, yeah?
I didn't look at frankly, I didn't know we were taking the spin from our intro.
Oh, it's still random either way. Yeah, so we have a couple of different gauges on the wheel of, oh boy.
This is a great first episode.
Of budget. So we have, the choices are under $50, 50 to 100, 100 to 150, 150 to 200. Then we have 200 to 300. And what we spun today was no limit budget.
No budget restrictions. That's going to keep things very interesting.
Yeah, well, maybe. unless it's a jank deck. So now that we know we have no budget limit for this episode, we're going to go to our deck theme generator.
And Eric, I don't know about you. To me, I think that reads as like I could build a $50 deck if it felt right.
Oh, yeah.
But I also could run like a $3,000 card from Unlimited if I felt like it.
Yeah, especially because we have jank, meta, and casual. If we get jank, we're not going to run Gaia's Cradle.
But if we hit meta, you know we're running the CEDH ramp package.
Exactly. So we have jank, meta, and casual. There's 10 choices on the wheel. Only one of them is dealer's choice. So if we do hit that, we just kind of get to choose what we think is the best. And we got casual.
Casual. All right. So we're going to get Soul Ring, but we're not going to get Mana Crypt.
Yeah, no Mana Crypt.
That's basically what that means, especially on no budget. Mm-hmm. All right. So to me, a no budget casual deck is my bread and butter.
Yeah.
Where I don't care about how much it costs. I just want to do something funny, a little bit different, but just synergistic enough that it keeps the inherent flavor of the commander that we have. Mm-hmm. And then budget's kind of like you get there afterwards, and then I look at my wallet and decide whether or not I can build what I, buy what I built.
Right, exactly.
I'm excited. This is going to be a great first episode.
Do you want to hear the commander?
I would love to hear the commander.
Today's episode, we have Yeva, Nature's Herald.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, Yeva is 4 mana with double green pips. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure she's an elf. Let me go double check.
She has a bear on the art.
She's got a bear on the art, which makes me very happy. I know what she does. I just want to get the rest of it.
Yeah.
So it's a 4 mana with double green pip for an elf shaman legendary creature. She has flash, and you may cast green creature cards as though they had flash.
Flash in the command zone is really nice.
Flash in the command zone is very nice because you can effectively take your entire turn on someone else's turn in mono green Stompy. And I want to lean into that.
Yeah, for sure.
I immediately think we should do mono green draw go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to play green like you play blue. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And it's not necessarily like mono green control. It's just, I think it would be so fun if we actively tried to make our whole deck happen on somebody else's turn.
It's got it, right? Mm-hmm. There's a couple effects I'm thinking of there. Some redundancy effects are pretty prominent. We're not talking about any... I think we're both thinking about cards we could include right now, but we're not saying it because we're saving that for later.
Yeah, we're talking about themes right now, things that we like. We're going to do a small cut afterwards and come back with our findings.
Yeah. So, since this is the first episode, we can talk about this. Basically what Cameron said, we're just going to do deck theme ideas, see what we want, and then bring up some top cards of our choice that are going to be synergistic in the deck later. I think it's pretty easy for this one just because it's one color and it's flash, so it's pretty easy to find the throw line there. Mm. But there's going to be situations later where the theme is not going to be apparent.
Well, I think for Yeva specifically, if we're going for this green draw go, the things that I want immediately are interaction on creatures. Mm-hmm. All of our interaction, if we want it to happen on somebody else's turn and feel thematic, they have to be tacked onto a creature. Mm-hmm. And so I'm immediately going to like Thrashing Brontodon type effects, where you can flash it in for 3 and then pay 1 and naturalize something. Mm-hmm. That way you could almost like combat trick and cast your 3/4, block the opponent's attack, and then blow something up on a 2-for-1.
Right.
I think that's going to be that sweet spot where this deck is going to feel really unique, is when we can get creatures that end up like doing this cute little 2-for-1 sort of thing.
Reclamation Sage.
Rec Sage sort of effects.
That's going to be fun. I agree.
Cards that ETB and bite to deal their power to somebody.
Battle Mammoth!
So all of a sudden, all of our creatures are instant speed removal. Mm-hmm. That can happen after somebody's cast their creature, but before they do anything with it.
Right.
I'm not leaning into like a heavy control theme in my mind, but if, Drago is a control concept.
Yeah.
So
it's going to feel control adjacent.
Yep.
So you're going to feel like you're playing control, but I don't think your opponents are going to feel like they're not going to be sitting there thinking, the green player has 5 green untapped.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the mammoth that it bites when it enters. And then it just got a big body, right? What's the name of that card?
I think it's something from Kaldheim.
Is it Thorn Mammoth?
Maybe it's Thorn Mammoth. Thorn Mammoth from Kaldheim. All I know is that it's Battle Mammoth.
Battle Mammoth.
Yeah. What does this say? So whenever a permanent you control becomes a target of a spell or an ability and opponent controls, you may draw a card. Oh, that's not...
No, okay, it is Thorn Mammoth. I was on it.
Oh, okay, yeah,
it
different
is a
mammoth.
7 mana, 6/6 elephant with trample. Whenever a Thorn Mammoth or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Thorn Mammoth fights a creature you don't control.
Different mammoth.
But it's a 6/6 body with trample. You can flash it in and immediately kill anything with 5 power or less. And it effectively gives it haste because by the time it comes back to your turn, it's not summoning sick anymore.
And it says other creature too, so that
and then
everything
it'll stick in play, and everything gives Thorn Mammoth a chance to fight if you want it to.
And then Battle Mammoth becomes Thorn Mammoth.
And then Battle Mammoth becomes Thorn Mammoth. I love it. There's so many ways that we can take this, and I'm very excited to come up with some interesting, like 2-for-1 mid-range sort of engagements.
Exactly. And no budget. It's just got to be casual. So we're probably not seeing like a Crater Hoof Behemoth play.
No. I mean,
like that.
Why would you want a Crater Hoof on somebody else's turn?
Yeah.
Right?
So that's not going to be present. Maybe looking at there's some big green creatures we maybe don't want. But yeah, well, I think it's going to be interesting with the constraints we have.
I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I don't know about you. Do you have any other concept for this theme, or are we just sending it?
I think people know what's happening now. It's just time to find the cards.
All right, get excited. Come up with some ideas, and we're gonna get back to you in one brief cut.
Woo!
Hey guys, bad news.
Yeah, we regret to inform you that Battle Mammoth did not make the cut.
Did not make the cut. I know you all were really looking forward to it. We talked so much about it.
I feel bad, really.
it's Eric's fault.
Yeah, I basically promised Battle Mammoth on a silver platter, and it didn't happen.
Oh yeah, Runic Arbosaur for 6 mana.
But four after you pay 2.
6. Foretell 4, whatever. No, but we did finish our deck list, and it is time for the no-budget, casual commander, Yeva Mono Green Drago.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. We worked really hard on this deck list.
And I am very close to just buying it for my paper commander pod.
Well, I don't know. There was no budget.
Whatever.
Mortgage time. Or whatever.
I rent. I can't mortgage. All right.
That's good. All right. Well, we thought we would start off with probably the biggest category in the deck is our win con slots.
Mm-hmm. We separated our card list into 6 different categories, and we're going to go through all of them except for the ramp, because it's mono green ramp. You know what's in there.
Look at the deck list. We'll have a Moxfield link below so you can check it out really quick.
Yeah.
Maybe even look at it as we talk about some of the cards that are included in this list.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, ramp is ramp. It's in mono green. It's what you expect for creature ramp.
But Eric, what's the exciting stuff? What's our win conditions? How does this deck win games?
This deck can certainly do that. Win games. You'll see really quick how. But the first one I wanted to talk about here was Shaman of the Forgotten Ways, or Shaman of Forgotten Ways. 2 generic and green, 2/3. You can tap it to add 2 mana of any combination of colors to your mana pool and spend it only to cast creatures. But that's not the win con thing. It has Formidable for 9 generic and 2 green, tap. Each player's life total becomes the number of creatures he or she controls, or they control. Activate this ability only if creatures you control have total power 8 or greater. That is so easy in this deck.
Welcome to an unbanned Biorhythm in Commander.
Yeah, Biorhythm.
My first set was the Tarkir block. Is when I started playing, and Shaman of the Forgotten Ways has just been sitting in the back of my skull for as long as I've played this game. I'm so excited to actually build a deck that it gets to go in and feels so good in.
Oh yeah,
It cares so much about creatures. Spoiler alert, We have 50 of them.
50 of them.
50 creatures. So
if you wanted to make this a Primal Surge deck, you could, I think. But that's not what we had in mind for this. But this deck is creature heavy. So be rest assured that the Shaman's not going to harm you in any way. But it might just kill your opponents.
It's just going to set somebody to 2, and you've got Trampler after Trampler to get past afterwards. And in the meantime, if you don't make it to that 11 mana anytime soon, it's a 3 mana card that's tapping for 2 mana. Good enough.
Good enough.
Love this card. And that's the tone for the rest of this deck is it's got to feel just as good as a Shaman of the Forgotten Ways.
Yeah, exactly.
The next really fun card, and I fought so hard to put this card in here. Really, the question was, how casual a card is this? Because we did label this a casual deck, and I fought tooth and nail. It's not tooth and nail.
Not tooth and nail, yeah.
I fought proverbially tooth and nail to include Food Chain.
You fought Food and Chain for this card. I fought
Food and Chain to make this a Food Chain deck, and not an infinite combo Food Chain deck. Just a very finite value engine Food Chain deck. Food Chain, it is a 3 mana enchantment. You get to sacrifice. It's exile a creature you control.
Yes.
And add X mana of any one color. It's going to be green. Where X is 1 plus the exiled creature's mana value. And you can spend it only to cast creature spells. 50 cards in our deck.
Yeah, so that's not going to be a problem.
And so if your whole deck can be cast at instant speed because of Yeva, and you've got a Food Chain in play, you can play out your cards, get their ETB value, chump block with them, do literally whatever you want with them, and the moment that they're just sitting there blocking, having a power line, you get to Food Chain them and get your mana back to cast another creature card from your hand. So much value. It's not going infinite unless I missed something. But it goes very, very finite, and I think it's deserving of a slot in this deck list.
Oh yeah, it's super casual in this list, and I just, the value of, I play this creature with ETB value, I auto-sack it to play this other creature with ETB value, and you just rinse and repeat that. It's just very good. It's also if you pick up one of the bigger beaters in this list and it's early game, this can possibly ramp you out into some of those bigger creatures by just giving you extra mana. So it's a fun card.
Yeah, in one of our first playtests, I think it was our first playtest with this deck list on Moxfield playtest, we got out Food Chain and a couple of other very spicy cards that we're getting right into. Keying into our Apex Devastator.
Apex Devastator. And I mean, this card is just a staple in a mono green deck. It's just a 8 generic mana card with 2 green pips, so 10 mana in total. It's a 10/10 Chimera Hydra. And this card, it's simple. It's just, it has Cascade and Cascade and Cascade and Cascade. It cascades 4 times on a 10 mana card.
You're effectively getting your top 4 non-land cards for free every time you cast this.
And in this deck, that's 50 creatures. So you're gonna find some spice with this Apex Devastator.
There might only be one card in this entire deck that Apex Devastator doesn't hit, and it's the 12 mana Galta that's effectively a 2-drop.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So,
I just double checked. There are 2 cards in this whole deck list that this misses, and it's the Galta and Apex Altasaur is 9 mana.
No, it is just Galta. It's fine. Galta's 2 mana. It doesn't matter. You don't need to cascade into it anyways. But yeah, Apex Devastator, nothing neat about it. No combo or synergy pieces.
A lot of neat about it.
Okay. But it's not this is a combo card or anything. It's just, I'm a big creature and I'm going to get more big creatures.
Eric, it's a combo card with Food Chain. Because you eat the creatures that it flips into to get your mana back on the Apex Devastator.
Oh, so okay. We'll talk about that later, why that's important. But, we'll get there. It's a lot of mana.
Yep. But before we talk about our lot of mana, our Cascade 4, and the last piece of this lovely little combo we assembled, our other major win condition in this deck is a little Timmy favorite of mine. It's Patron of the Orochi. That is an 8 mana, 6 and double green pip for a legendary spirit. It's a 7/7 with Snake Offering. This part's not very relevant, but it does... its cost gets reduced if you sacrifice a snake when you cast the spell.
Which there are 2 of.
2. They're both 3 mana or less, and one of them is Sakura Tribelder, so that's not going to stay in play.
One of them is Steve.
So let's just call it an 8 mana 7/7.
Yeah.
And it has tap. Untap all forests and all green creatures. Play this ability only once each turn. Note, it doesn't say other, which means it untaps itself. And it untaps all of your basic forests. And your whole deck, because it's 50 creatures deep, and all of them are green. This card goes from a little Timmy cute card into a wonderful stompy powerhouse the moment you're playing Yeva.
Yeah.
Because you get to play your turn on everybody's turn.
And I know what probably some people are thinking, so Seedborn Muse for 3 more mana? Why'd you do that? I'm going to mention it again so people know. It's a casual list. Seedborn Muse is not really a casual card. You can argue it might be a little more casual. It's not like CDH-ish. I mean, it is and it isn't. But when we're talking about, like, I'm sitting down at the kitchen table with my friends and I may or may not be riffle shuffling my cards. I don't, but, you know, that could happen. You're not going to have a Seedborn Muse in that deck. And this card fits that niche perfectly.
We talked about the difference between the two when we were contemplating putting it in the list. And it came down to, like, somebody plays a Seedborn Muse and the table goes, But if you play Patron of the Orochi...
If anyone goes...
And then they have to pull the card to their face, read the paragraph of text about Snake Offering that nobody's going to use, and then at the bottom, it's Seedborn Muse, but you get double your mana on your turn. Yeah, that's pretty funny to me.
Yeah, I like it.
Nobody sees it coming.
And it is also a lot cheaper.
Yes,
So,
yes.
I mean, unless you want the foil, but I mean...
$33 foil.
Come on.
Bling it out, man. But so if this doesn't give you a good idea of this deck, if you have to go, you click off right here. I think these 5 cards tell you exactly what the rest of this deck is doing. Right?
It definitely is. It's very Timmy. It's very Timmy. And it's not a lot of combos. It's just, I'm going to beat in your face with all these creatures, and you cannot stop me.
Yeah. That said, there is one major combo tool in this deck.
Yes.
And it is a cornerstone card. We should talk about it in the win cons, but we made an entire category for it.
Oh, yeah. This is our ETB slot for this list. And ETB, Enter the Battlefield triggers. There's one card that does stand out above the rest in this deck, and that is Teamer's Sabertooth. Everyone, like, not everyone knows this card, maybe. I don't want to generalize. But if you don't know this card,
you should.
Yeah, it's Combo Central. This card is 2 generic, 2 green pips, 4 in total, 4/3, and it's a cat. You can pay 1 and a green, and it states, you may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Teamer Sabertooth gains indestructible until end of turn. That doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess it does if people want to remove it, which they should.
They should.
But this card goes nuts.
I'll reiterate quickly. It's not a tap ability.
Not a tap.
It's just as long as you have the mana, you get to do it and do it over again.
Yeah. So going back to what we were mentioning earlier, this card in Apex Devastator, if you have the mana and if you have a food chain out, what Cameron was saying, you can just Apex Devastator with a Teamer Sabertooth out, cascade into 4 things, bounce to Apex Devastator, food chain the creatures you got off Apex Devastator, do it again. And it's it's very fun. It activates many other cards in this deck that we probably, like, maybe 20 plus cards. We're not all going to mention here, but it's just insane value.
Yeah, this was maybe the 5th or 6th card in our deck list. Eric threw it out there and it was like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. and we basically built the rest of the deck around the idea that Temur Sabertooth goes hard. There's a couple of tutors in our card draw slot to find it that we threw in there for good measure just because of how cornerstone this piece is to our theme. But yeah, Temur Sabertooth, there's ways it goes infinite, similar to Food Chain.
Yep.
There's ways it goes infinite, but we aren't running them. It's just a lot of very, very finite mono green stuff.
A lot of value. None of it is infinite, but it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Sure is.
You know? And if somebody does look through this Moxfield deck and finds an infinite combo hiding in all of these cards, it's like, you know.
It's just there.
Good for you. I'm happy that I know now. No, that's not the intention of the deck list. That's important to know, is we're not trying to do that. I just put that as a disclaimer because Temur Sabertooth is one of those cards you can accidentally infinite with very easily.
Yeah, you just did not know.
But
right.
Yeah, well, while we're on the ETB category, there's a couple of other very important cards that sit in this pool. Next on the list, you know him, you love him. It's the other Mammoth. We did keep Thorn Mammoth in the deck.
Thorn Mammoth had to stay.
Yep. We already gave you. It's the 7-mana 6/6 that fights whenever a creature you control enters. Yeah. And, you know, that's kind of the control package. It was the start of the deck. I think this was unironically card number 2 after the commander.
Yeah, somehow.
Whoever thought that Thorn Mammoth would be the second card in your 99?
Yeah, it's a good one though. I do like this card, and I've seen this card pop off before. At a play group I played that was also pretty kitchen table-y. This card gets played, and it's just I can't. It was with a token generator deck, and so they just kept making tokens and board wiping people because the Mammoth was the biggest thing.
There's a couple of token generators in here. I'm looking at some cards on this list. Go ahead and go find them if you want to find out more. Thorn Mammoth, quick and easy. What about the God Eternal Ronus, Eric? This was one of your thoughts, and it's a great choice.
This card seems so fun in this list. Just God Eternal Ronus is a 3 generic pip, 2 green pip, legendary creature, zombie god. It's a 5/5 with Death Touch, and when it enters the battlefield, you double the power of each other creature you control until end of turn, and they gain vigilance until end of turn. And then when it dies or it's put into exile from the battlefield, you can put it third from the top of your library, which is fine. A recurring creature is good, especially one like this, but just, it's such a good combat trick.
That's the thing that makes me chuckle about it, is we didn't put this in here primarily as a way to get through. We were looking up Death Touch cards so we can flash in Death Touchers. And Eric points out God Eternal Ronus because it's a Death Toucher that doubles the power of your other blockers and then goes back to the top of your library afterwards.
Yeah, we'll probably talk a little more about this later, but you can see a theme here with some of the Death Touch creatures. It's a very tricky deck. Like, this deck is the closest you can probably get to like mono blue or esque in mono green, besides maybe like cantrips. But it's fun, and I feel like this card is going to be sneakily impactful in the entire list.
Another card that seems sneakily impactful is our last honorable mention in the ETB slot. I found Woodland Bellower to be a very interesting include. It's a 6-mana, 6/5 beast. When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for a non-legendary green creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less. Put it onto the battlefield directly.
Hey, Cameron.
Yeah.
What card is 3 mana in this deck that kind of just wins the game?
Especially if you can put it down on your prior end step and then have it not be summoning sick. Ooh, is it Shaman of Forgotten Ways?
It sure is.
Ding, ding, ding.
And you will have 8 power or more because Shaman's a 2/3 and the Bellower is a 6/6
Yep.
or 6/5.
It is a one card combo with your primary win condition as long as you can cast it at flash speed.
Which is so funny. So good.
Not to mention, we were slated to put it at the end of the episode, but I'm just gonna bring it up quickly now.
All right.
If somebody's trying to counter something that you have on the stack, you can get the Woodland Bellower in over the counter spell, activate the triggered ability to go find either your Allosaurus Shepherd or your Destiny Spinner.
Ooh, yeah.
Which both are non-legendary 3 or less green creature cards that say your spells can't be countered. That way you can resolve something. Some other cards that we're going to bring up later, we have a whole package of dedicated control pieces. I'm doing a skim over it now. Half of them are 3 mana or less, so it's a nice combat trick for double defenders or double blockers.
So you're telling me this card is simultaneously protection, it's removal,
Yeah, it's a combat trick.
it's a combat trick, it's your win con,
It
and
ramps if you need ramp.
it ramps, and it's a beater.
Yep.
This card just has it all.
It also can pull one of our highest value advantage cards, which we're going to talk about pretty soon here. It goes hard
It's
in this
very
deck.
fun.
And, you know, it's hard not to look at a tutor card and be like, oh, yeah, that's pretty sweaty. But, gosh, how many times have you seen a Woodland Bellower resolve, Eric?
I don't think I've ever seen this
I
card
don't think
played.
I've ever seen this card played, and that's
Yeah.
just on our meta, obviously. But, like, gosh, it's just such a nice Timmy value
It's
card.
also only $3 for a mythic. I don't know what set that is.
Magic Origins. It's with the flip planeswalkers.
Oh, so it's old too. So I don't know. I think this card's a little slept on in certain piles.
In exclusively mono green stompy decks in which your value engine costs 3 or less and your whole deck is green creatures.
Yeah.
This is like the one deck where this becomes this toolbox tutor. And it can't go without saying just how much of an impact this card can have if you let it.
All right. I believe is
Yeah.
at our control slot next.
I think we're going to talk about some control options
All
now.
right.
It's a good tangent from the Bellower into cards that Bellower can find.
I want to talk about this card. You want to do that one?
I want to do this one first.
You want to do? All right, you got it.
All right.
You like that card?
And I bring it up only because it can be tutored with Woodland Bellower.
All right.
Our favorite combat trick in mono green, we've got Permeating Mass sitting in this pile. It's finally a deck that can actually run Permeating Mass to valuable effect. Yeva giving it flash. It is a 1 mana, 1/3 spirit. When it deals combat damage to a creature, that creature becomes a copy of Permeating Mass. Note, it doesn't die. It doesn't leave play and come back. It just changes the block of text, which means it can permanently change an opponent's commander until they can make it leave play.
And Permeating Mass is usually bad because you have to play it normally. Just on your turn, here's this mass, my 1-drop. Then no one's going to attack you for the rest of the game.
Exactly what's coming.
They don't know what's coming now. It's staying silent.
Staying silent until the person who's about to win the game decides to swing with their 2020 commander with a bunch of rules text, and you get them. And then they're really sad at you. But, you know, how sad can you be? Because you just got someone with Permeating Mass.
You got them.
It's the ultimate gotcha. I've wanted to find a spot for this card since Eldritch Moon first released, and I think this is finally the home where I know I can tell somebody this is the deck that this card belongs.
Yeah, I think it's probably one of the
So
only.
funny.
All right.
I steamrolled your transition a little bit because of how excited I was about Permeating Mass.
Permeating Mass is an exciting card, but you know what's a sneaky, exciting card that I don't think anyone's gonna think about in this list. So this card everyone might know. This is Ashaya, Soul of the Wild.
Buckle up.
Buckle up. This is a 3 generic 2 green card, legendary creature elemental. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, and the bottom part states, non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. But you may be asking yourself, this isn't an ETB card. This isn't... Why is this in your control slot for all reasons? Well, non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. That means at flash speed, any board wipes or any removal pieces that specifically say non-land permanents will not work because you flashed in a Shia. So if someone tries to wipe the board, they can't. They can't do it because you just flashed in a Shia and now all your stuff stays. And there's just, it's just so versatile.
It's really insane. I looked at this card and I'm immediately thinking, yeah, we love 5 mana 15/15s, but it doesn't have trample or anything. This card can't be that good. And Eric brings up the bottom half of the text box, and I laugh now, and I laughed when he first brought it up. It's so niche and so pointed, but gosh, is it not so effective. I also love the amount of creatures in this deck means that turning non-token creatures into forest surprisingly is going to get you a lot of mana value.
It's ramp too.
And it could effectively pay for itself depending on the part of the game you're casting it in, which, if we're using it in response to a board wipe, likely is when you've got like 6 or 7 creatures already in play.
That's true. People are afraid of your board. They try to hit you with that board wipe. Too bad. They're lands now. So
there's one very important thing to note here. If you are sacrificing your mental well-being in order to play in a pod that has land destruction in the meta,
oh boy,
cut this card.
Yep.
Don't run it.
Don't
do it.
You'll die.
But if you're playing in a casual commander pod in which mass land destruction is not being run,
besides like Worldfire.
Sure. Well, Worldfire is a different type of card. But you see what I mean. Like, this is a very meta sensitive card. So if you do decide to build this deck or some sort of spiritual successor to it, this Ashaya combo is only as good as the amount of mass land destruction in your average player group. But if you're not facing mass land destruction and it's just non-land board wipes,
you're gonna get them.
You're gonna get them.
They're not gonna know.
And you're gonna get them often. I think it might take like 4 or 5 gotchas from Ashaya before I clock in my pod that Ashaya can counter my board wipe. You know?
It's just so funny. I really like the versatility this card has in this deck when it has flash. So.
We've got one more major control piece, and I think, for lack of a better descriptor, this is sort of the point of this deck. This card, simple as it is, signifies exactly what we wanted to do with this deck. And that is get people on 2-for-1s in mono green Stompy. I'm talking about Acidic Slime. It's the 5 mana 2/2 ooze creature with Death Touch. And when it enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land.
Big gotcha.
Big gotcha. You have Yeva out on turn 4. You pass the turnaround. Somebody's a little bit faster than you, and they're like, oh, shoot, you're going to start going. Here, let me just get in there, swing my 5/5 at you. You get them right back. You drop the Acidic Slime, you blow up their Soul Ring, and you kill their commander.
What do they do?
What do they do? Right? Especially if they used their ramp to get to a big card, and then you kill the big card and the thing that got them there. If that was their commander, they're probably out for minimum 2 turn rotations.
They're now out 4 mana because of the 2 from the Soul Ring and the commander tags. So you set them back 4 turns with their commander.
Yep. If you get them like that, and frankly, in casual commander, you're going to get them like that pretty often.
Again, this casual deck. So this isn't going to get the people who aren't attacking you and just sitting on combo pieces or sitting on counter spells. This is where the high, like, percentage of the Gruul Stompy players are, I think, is like casual commander. This card is going to get so many people.
This card in this deck in a battle cruiser Magic meta. Ooh, I feel just how impactful this card can be. And there's many other control pieces sitting in this stack that have this same sort of 2-for-1 feel, or the sort of gotcha, where if you can cast it down after somebody chose to target you, either on attack or with an effect. There's just so many ways in this deck to say, no, you don't.
You're the one dying now.
Yeah.
It's nice, but
Makes
this
me
is
chuckle.
the best version. It encompasses all we want in the deck in this one card. So it's very nice.
Well, Eric, we are rounding out the deck tech a little bit. We're just going to briefly touch on some card advantage slots. But I wanted to ask before we do, what would you say is like, how close do you think this deck got to our initial intention of a casual, no-budget commander deck in which we're not necessarily doing the well-known Yeva game plan, but we're staying just on track with it while giving it our own little flair?
I honestly think we did it perfectly. I'm not gonna lie. There's just this feeling with this deck every time I play test it. It doesn't really like pop off. Like you're not exploding by turn 5, but you're doing the Yeva thing you want to do every single time. You are going to be casting these things on other people's turns. You're gonna trick people with all the combat tricks, and you're doing it with your little dudes.
All your little guys. I agree. I just wanted to see how you felt about it. This is the point that we mentioned. Our budget for this deck did come out to $342. That does include the cost of all of the basic lands. So bring that down by, gosh, I don't know, 25 cents a land, give or take. So we've maybe cutting it by like $6, $5. But still, we're above $325 on our budget, which it is no budget. So we didn't even factor that into play.
Oh, no.
I just wanted to mention right up, if we do find somebody that plays this deck, I sure hope, and I have a great feeling, that it's worth the investment.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you've got half of this deck already and you're like $80 away from building it,
do it.
It's gonna be worth a laugh or two, because hot dang.
It looks so fun. It looks so fun.
All right, before we wrap up totally, there's one other slot that we want to talk about, and that's the card advantage slot. It's pretty straightforward. For a mono green stompy deck, it's a little bit difficult not to run some cards when you're thinking about green card draw in a creature theme. But there's just a couple of quick little notes that we wanted to bring up. Namely, one from earlier, the Fauna Shaman.
Oh, Fauna Shaman.
Fauna Shaman's going to go really hard in this deck. It's a 2-mana 2/2 Elf Shaman. 1 green and tap. You discard a creature card to pay for the effect. You search your library for a creature card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. I immediately thought of this card because you can do it at instant speed, and then at instant speed, cast the card you searched for.
Yeah, so if this is already out, this can find you that combat trick. This can find you that... I mean, this can also just find you your win cons,
It can
too.
find you anything.
Yeah.
For 1 additional mana, as
And-
long as you've got a creature in hand.
You know, one of the 50.
Yep,
So-
one of the deck.
Yeah, so you're
Effectively.
gonna have a creature in hand that you want to toss. I mean, maybe you don't want to, but you can probably afford to toss.
Like, outside of CEDH combo decks, this might be the best spot for a Fauna Shaman I've ever seen.
It's very versatile, and I really like it in this list, for sure.
Another versatile card that looks pretty good in this list. It's a callback to our Ravnica Remastered.
Repeat!
Our top cards for Commander, our top reprints. That's the Guardian Project.
Yeah, we kind of talk ourselves into this card, I think. It's
Maybe
just
a little bit.
And also, this deck, remember, it's ETB heavy. And you know what Guardian Project likes to mess with? ETB effects. So you are gonna get the value off of this card.
You compare this directly to Beast Whisperer, which is another 4-mana card draw card. You have to cast creature spells to draw your card off of Beast Whisperer.
Yeah.
Guardian Project, quick reminder, it's a 4-mana enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature you control or a creature in your grave, that condition doesn't matter in EDH. Draw a card. So this is an ETB draw card for 4. It's, again, best in slot. Go back to our Ravnica Remastered chat episode if you want to hear more thoughts on this card. But it made the cut.
Yeah. And do note that we have the other version of this card in the deck. We don't have to mention them, but it's... So this is just the best version, and we wanted to include it in this deck. And, of course, the other versions are in there as well. And one other card, I think the last card we're going to mention today in this slot, is Vizier of the Menagerie. It's a 3 generic, 1 green pip, so 4 mana value card, creature, Naga Cleric. It's a 3/4, and it states you may look at the top of your card of your library. Yay. Oh, and you can do it at any time. I guess it's before they put that in its text. It's in the parentheses, which is kind of funny. You can cast the top card of your library if it's a creature card.
You know, if it's a card in your deck.
If it's a card in your deck. And then you may spend any mana to do this, but we're mono green, so that part doesn't really matter. Yep. But just having an extra card to flash in with Yeva is just good.
You know, if you're sitting on your Patron of the Oroki and 9 lands in play and you have nothing to do with all of your mana, you get to slam down the Vizier and just go, I guess I get this card. I guess I get this card too. I guess I get that card. Yeah. Oh, it's your turn now? Okay, I'll untap my lands.
I get this card
guess
too.
I'll get this card. Why not get that card?
It really just does feel like an endless hand in this deck because of so many creatures.
We had a lot of really interesting themes that we could abuse by how creature deep we made this deck, and I'm very happy with the result of it.
Yeah, so this deck it kind of has the feel of like a creature only deck, except with a few flex cards. I think it's a total of what is this?
14 non-creatures in the whole deck.
14 non-creatures. So you're very there's going to be rarely a time where you have no creatures in hand.
There's just a couple of cards that we couldn't afford not to run in order to keep it consistent.
Yeah.
Some protection, some really powerful ramp pieces, a couple of card draw effects here and there. But generally speaking, it either was a creature or it was like the best in slot effect to round out our deck.
Yeah, so no, we spent a long time tuning this deck to make it what it is now, and I think it was accomplished.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And anybody who feels like it, you're only 14 cards away from making it Primal Surge.
Yeah. We
just didn't want to do Primal Surge combo. We wanted to search for something else.
Exactly. Primal Surge, and then you just add 1 haste enabler in there, and you win the game. Yay. But we wanted to do something different.
For us. This equally is an experiment for us as much as it is for our audience to enjoy. And I love this deck. And I had a great time with this challenge. And I definitely think we'll be doing it again.
Oh, absolutely. For sure.
Any other closing words on our no-budget, casual Yeva Drago deck?
I don't think so. You know, I think it's explained well. It presents pretty easily, just creature heavy. And if you have the cards for this deck, go ahead, try it out. Maybe go on Moxfield and do a bit of a playtest and see what we're talking about.
I would love to hear feedback on this. Just to see if you get your hands on it, look at the cards, play them in a playtest, put them in your Magic the Gathering online client, whatever. I would love to hear what people's opinions are on this deck after feeling it. Because I know for both of us, we might be a little bit biased, but I don't know if we're that biased.
No.
It feels fun.
Yeah.
Primarily.
It's so fun. It's such a fun deck.
Makes my Timmy heart happy, and I hope it makes yours too. All right, I think we're about ready to wrap up on this one. What do you think?
I think so too. Well, thanks for listening or watching, depending on what platform you're on. And speaking of platforms, we have a Spotify, YouTube, and a TikTok you can go follow us on for either sneak peeks or whatever way you like to enjoy our content. All right.
Bye.